Got to check out Bitcoin. Got to check out Bitcoin. Bitcoin is up to all-time highs. Bitcoin hit 123 this morning. 123 this morning. Wow. Let's see what NVIDIA got going on. NVIDIA is, we got 15 minutes before the market opens. NVIDIA is right below its highs. We have a little pullback on Friday. Trying to get back up. But the big talk is Bitcoin. With the tariff scares coming back in, Bitcoin is getting a little flow coming in. Let's see. Let me see what these other coins are doing. Let's see. Let me look at. Okay. But yeah, Bitcoin is over 120, 121. We did hit 123. Now we pull back a little bit down to 121. Yeah, getting ready for this market to open. We got 15 minutes. Finna get ready to watch this Trump talk. We got Trump news coming up. He's getting ready to make some type of decision about Russia. You know, he's real disappointed in Russia. That's what he said all last week. The Russia talks ain't going that well. So the thing is, what is Trump going to do? Well, I think he's going to send Ukraine more money and more weapons. I think that's coming. And then, man, if we get involved in this war, look out, guys. So we got to wait to see what Trump is going to be talking about. Let's see. Trump is having a luncheon at 11. NATO chief Mark visits D.C. for talks with President Trump. Well, at 9, which is in another 40 minutes, NATO chief and Trump are going to have conversations about what they're going to do about the Russia-Ukraine war. So we got a lot going on this Money Monday. Appreciate y'all for joining me. I am your host, the one and only Stock Sniper. And I'm going to play this little clip on what Trump said before, let's see, right as he comes to JBA airport. Let's see what he say. Let's see. Boom.
Phenomenal. It was a little bit of an upset, I guess they would say, but it was a great match, very well played, tremendous crowd. And that's sort of a pre-World Cup. We have World Cup coming, we have Olympics coming, and we have 250 years coming. That's going to be a big one, maybe the biggest one of all. So that was great. We had some tremendous financial numbers released on Friday, as you probably heard, that our country made $25 billion last month. $25 billion.
Wow.
It hasn't done that in a long time, and a lot of that's done because of good management, and number one, and maybe even more importantly, the tariffs that are pouring in. We have tariffs pouring in at levels that we have never seen before, and they've only just started. That's really a small portion. It's mostly from cars and aluminum and steel, a little bit of lumber. But they'll really start in about another week. And then in about a month, they'll come in at levels that are extremely strong. And our country's making a lot of money, We're dealing with other countries and certain countries that would rather have a deal than a regular tariff. And if they're willing to open up. These are countries that have been shut to us, but we've been open to them. In other words, they wouldn't let us do business there, but they would do business in our country. Not a fair deal. So the European Union is talking to us. They want to open up their country. I would say Japan to a much lesser extent in terms of opening up their country. Japan, as you know, and we're very close to Japan, but they sell us millions and millions of cars a year. We sell them no cars because they won't accept our cars. And they won't accept much of our agriculture either. So,
hello, Nathaniel. How you doing?
They're all changing their ways very, very rapidly. South Korea
Appreciate you.
wants to make a
Appreciate
deal
you for
other than
joining.
tariffs. Right now, as you know, they're paying a substantial tariff, but they want to make a difference. So some of these deals, maybe I'll change them and maybe I won't. But our country is making a lot of money. A lot of money for the first time in a long time, in decades. And that's the way it should be.
Trump said the country is making a lot of money.
And I said it the other day to you people.
I think he said we made $35 billion last month.
It was dead. It was a goner 1 year ago. And now we have the hottest country in the world. Okay, questions?
About $40 billion that would go to illegal benefits. What does that mean to the bottom line that we're taking away a lot of the fraud and abuse to illegal?
Getting rid of a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse. One of the reasons I think that you'll see the numbers start to be very good for the country, but I think more than anything else, we have tariffs coming in the will be hundreds of billions of
Trump
dollars.
equals corrupt pedophile.
Gaza, we are talking, and hopefully we're going to get that straightened out over the next week. Let's see what happens.
So Gavin Newsom is fighting.
Taco, when you make your comments, you got to say it a little bit more friendly because YouTube is cracking down on these harsh
I don't know if he
words.
hates women, but look, he thinks it's good
Your
politically.
comment will never come
He's just
across
saying Gavin
YouTube
Newsom wants to
screen.
keep men and
Only
women
reason why
sports.
I can see it
Nobody
because
understands
I'm using
it.
the software.
Very few. I say it's a 3%.
I can see
you know,
it,
they
but
say it's
no one in the
80,
chat
20.
can see your
It's not
comment.
80-20. I think it's 97-3.
So Rosie O'Donnell, she went on Chris Cuomo's show recently. She blamed you for the fact that she's overweight, depressed, and drunk. What do you say to that? Do you think TDS is going to ever be a DSM-5 diagnosis?
I don't know about Rosie. I watch Rosie. Rosie's a mess. She's a mess. But she left our country, which is a good thing, not a bad thing. Yeah. Well, I'm going to have a meeting with the Secretary General who's coming in tomorrow. But we basically are going to send them various pieces of very sophisticated military, and they're going to pay us 100% for them. And that's the way we want it. And we've been trying to get that again. I don't think Biden ever asked for it. We're in for about $350 billion. Europe is in for $100 billion. That's a lot of money, 100, but they should be in actually for more than us. So as we send equipment, they're going to reimburse us for that equipment. Doesn't that sound good?
Okay.
That's the way it should have been a long time ago.
So he's saying that Russia, not Russia, but Ukraine
but
is
they're
going to
have
buy
some
the equipment.
because they do need protection. But the European Union is paying for it. We're not paying anything for it. But we will send it. It'll be business for us. And we will send them Patriots, which they desperately need, because Putin is really surprised a lot of people. He talks nice and then he bombs everybody in the evening. So there's a little bit of a problem there. And I don't like
said
it.
we're going to send Patriots.
Oh, I think so. I
Let
did.
me
I spoke
rewind
to him
that.
today. Dan Bongino, very good guy. He talked.
Sound like he said that we're sending Patriots.
She's a mess. But she left our country, which is a good thing, not a bad thing.
Sound like he said we're sending troops over there, but he
well, I'm
said
going to have a
Patriots.
meeting with the Secretary General who's
Instead.
coming in tomorrow. But we basically are going to send them
You hear this again.
various pieces
Appreciate
of
y'all
very
for joining me.
sophisticated
Hit the like
military.
button if
They're
you're
gonna
tuning
pay
in,
us
tapping in.
100% for them.
Trump is going to announce
that's the
big
way we want
news
it. And
either
we've been
today
trying
or
to get
tomorrow
that again.
about
I
Russia.
don't think Biden ever asked for it. We're in for about $350 billion. Europe is in for $100 billion. That's a lot of money, 100, but they should be in actually for more than us. So as we send equipment, they're going to reimburse us for that equipment. Doesn't that sound good? That's the way it should have been a long time ago.
Trump is saying we're going to sell
I haven't
Ukraine
agreed on the number yet, but they're going to have some because they do need protection. But the European Union is paying for it. We're not paying anything for it, but we will send it. It'll be business for us, and we will send them Patriots, which they desperately need, because Putin really surprised a lot of people. He talks nice, and then he bombs everybody in the evening. So there's a little bit of a problem there, and I don't like it. Oh, I think so. I did. I spoke to him today. Dan Bongino, very good guy. I've known him a long time. I've done his show many, many times. And he sounded terrific, actually. No, I think he's in good shape.
I was going to ask you, on this one-year anniversary of Butler, what was going through your mind this morning, Mr. President, as you woke up?
Trump and Putin ain't getting along, not seeing eye to eye.
Would you repeat that question?
On this one-year anniversary of Butler, what was going through your mind this morning when you woke up? I know that you're praising God you're alive, but a lot of people want to know how you're taking this day on this one-year anniversary.
God was protecting me. Maybe because God wanted to see our country do better or do really well, make America great again. But God was protecting me, Brian. I'll tell you, it's the more you think about it, the more you see it. But no, I don't like to think about it much. You know, I have a job to do, so I don't like to think about it much. It's a little bit of a dangerous profession being president, but I really don't like to think about it too much. I think you're better off not thinking about it.
And you were able to accomplish 20 promises so far.
Yeah, and I think we've more than delivered. Thank you for saying that. But, you know, we made a lot of promises, and we've actually given a lot more promises than we even made. Yeah. And you add on that a tremendous success with the strike that we had, getting rid of nuclear weapons in Iran. That was a big, big strike. And, you know, when the pilots came to my office, they were there, as you know, with some of the other people having to do with that strike. And they said something very interesting. They said, you know, we've been practicing this for 22 years, but no president had the guts to tell us to do it. But this has been on our minds for many, many years, and we did it. And I would say from 0 to 10, with 10 being the best, that attack was a 15.
What do you think about this new bill that's going to basically eliminate no capital gains tax on home sales to be able to free up the money? People who've owned a house for a long time can't afford to pay the capital gains.
Yeah, well, we're looking at that, and it could be a very big positive. I don't think for you, because you make so much money, it doesn't matter. But I think it's going to be a great incentive for a lot of people that really need money.
So between that and Jerome Powell stepping down, that could really boost home sales.
Well, I think if Jerome Powell stepped down, it would be a great thing. I don't know that he's going to, but he should. Jerome Powell's been very bad for our country. We should have the lowest interest rate on earth, and we don't. He just refuses to do it, and yet he's spending $2.5 billion rebuilding the Fed, the Federal Reserve building. And I don't know what he knows about building, but you talk about cost overrun. So he got this approved, and he started the work during the Biden administration. And he doesn't look like the kind of a guy, frankly, that wants to spend $2.5 billion. And it's very interesting because out of 71 economists, one person, me, and then one other person, I think from Wharton, got it right, and the others were all wrong in terms of the success of our country this quickly. We have no inflation. We have cash pouring in. It was me and somebody else. And I can tell you, I don't need 5,000 people working for me behind the scenes like Jerome Powell to tell him what he should say once a month, because they got it wrong. The Fed got it wrong. I call him too late. He's always too late. Every point cost us $360 billion. Think of that. And we should be 3 points. That's almost $1 trillion. Approximately $1 trillion less we should be just with the signing of a piece of paper. So we'll see what happens. I mean, you're telling me he's going to quit. I hope he quits. I don't know that he's going to quit, but he should quit because he's been very bad for the country.
Yeah, he won't Powell out of there.
Sanctions on Russia tomorrow?
We're going to see what we will see tomorrow, okay? And we have the
Trump wants
Secretary
Jerome Powell
General,
out of there.
has announced sanctions. But I am very disappointed with President Putin. And I thought he was somebody that meant what he said, and he'll talk so beautifully, and then he'll bomb people at night. We don't like that. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
All right, so that was the very latest from the Commander-in-Chief. Their joint.
US President Donald Trump tells Europe and Mexico they
achieve the negotiated solutions. I mean, my impression was that that was something worth working for, because otherwise you wouldn't spend like 3 months on drafting the agreement in principles and going through 1,700 tariff lines, discussing all details from agriculture to the spare parts for the cars. If this should just end it by one, even though very, very important letter. So I believe that there is still a potential to continue the negotiations, even though, of course, this letter took at first strong waves in Europe, and I will be very open about that. Concerning the discussion on the highest level, the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, had several personal contacts on her level with the President of the United States, Donald Trump. She had several phone calls with him as well. Of course, we are talking not only to my counterparts, but also to the White House officials of the negotiations are going on all levels.
YouTube is cracking down.
I have to say, our minister will have to chair the EU Central America Association Council in a few moments. We have time for one last question, but please be brief. Bloomberg.
Jay Cook, the more
Thank
you
you very
watch
much,
the
Jorge
stuff,
with Bloomberg. It's a question for both of us. One question. The letter sent by Trump is interpreted as a negotiation tactic to add additional pressure to the EU, and there were several points that were still open before reaching this agreement in principle. So my question is whether the EU is ready to drop these demands on these issues. There were car tariffs, agri-tariffs, and other issues. They're ready to drop these demands in order to avoid this 30% tariff, or this will be considered as an unbalanced deal, and therefore you will keep pushing regardless of what could be the outcome of it.
I think I will start. As I said,
the more this stuff, that's why it's good to pay attention. And it's good to watch this stuff so you can see what's going on.
But
still ahead of the game.
Clearly, the areas where we had quite big gap between our two positions. So I will not go into the details of these gaps, because I prefer to negotiate directly with my partners, which I will do.
Y'all hit the like button, man, so we can get the algorithm going.
For us, what is absolutely clear is that if you want to land it, and I was very open with my US counterparts, it has to be the agreement which would have a support of our member states, of the European Parliament.
Let me know what you think in the comment section. But you got to word it, you know,
which would be acceptable to us. So
in a
this
respectable right way, or YouTube won't show it.
We would be
YouTube is changing a lot, guys.
Well,
so
just
they're not allowing
brief
real bad words
to add. I think
inside of the chat.
Makes absolutely sense not to negotiate.
Well, if you agree or disagree,
open room with our American counterparts. What is important, as I take away from today's meeting, is that the ministers had a very, very clear position. I think when I entered this meeting, and I apologize for the rhetoric, I said if you want peace, you have to prepare for war. It's not that we want a war, but we need to prepare in order to give our Commissioner the strongest possible negotiation position. And I think we managed to achieve that today.
Thank you. This concludes the press conference. Thank you so much.
So I will see you.
We wait on the big news.
All right, so that wraps that live event. We saw it in full. The European Foreign Affairs Council on U.S. trade. Upcoming events there on the left side of your screen. I'm going to transition and give you a live look out in Kyiv, Ukraine, as we are following the very latest with foreign affairs. Following the very latest this morning, take a look at the left side of your screen, those upcoming events as you do plan your day with us. Giving you that live look out in Kyiv, Ukraine, because we are getting this announcement from the New York Post. Take a look. just put out on
major announcement,
ago,
guys, coming
Trump
up.
makes major announcement on Russia as Ukraine envoy Keith Kellogg arrives in Kyiv at height of Putin's brutality. So we are following the very latest of this announcement. And of course, if we get any cameras inside, if we get any press conferences in full, we will share them with you here on Live Now from Fox. The time now 9:35 here on the East Coast. Stepping away for a quick 2-minute commercial break. We'll be right back.
The thing is, what will the announcement be? What y'all think in the comment section? What do y'all think this announcement will be? We got 72 people in the building. Come on, guys, hit the like button for me. Get the likes up so we can get more people in the building. Unfortunately, we have been conditioned to accept the status quo, believing that some politicians are going to save us from ourselves, but the reality is the system is broken. Hope the young bulls are ready to get drafted. Bro, yeah, man, that's the thing. What is this announcement going to be today, guys? What is the big announcement? Do y'all think that the troops going to get involved in what's going on? Do y'all think the troops gonna get involved? You know, you got to say it a certain way on YouTube. Like and subscribe. Appreciate you for subscribing to the channel and like it. You know, we got to say it, say it a certain way. Because YouTube cracking down on the wordplay and how you write in the comment section. So, yeah, what y'all think? I hate to say it, but I think war is coming. I hope not, but that's what I think too. That's why we got to stay tuned in today and tomorrow to see what is going on. What is this big announcement going to be about the Russia affairs? It's going to be crazy if we go to war. Let's see. I think I'm about to cut this on right now.
Mentioned a former Israeli prime minister now alleging the idea resembles a Nazi concentration camp.
Let's see.
How is this criticism going down
if we currently have
with the less extreme right-wing aspects of the Israeli government?
Won't be war.
Look, the Israeli government as a whole, I fear, is now identified as pretty far right-wing extreme, because that's the forces that have been guiding events because they control the government. I have to also say, Malene, Lapid did not call it a Nazi concentration camp. That word is extremely loaded in Israel, and he would never have done that. The Nazis put people in ovens and killed them with Cyclone B gas.
What do you think, Chad?
It is absolutely
what is going to be announced today?
A concentration camp, not unlike what was done to Japanese Americans in World War II and worse. So it's bad. And the main thing I can say about this is that it's unlikely to happen, because the Israeli public wants this war to be over. The pressure is enormous on a government to find a way to end it. They may conceivably find ways to drag it out for a little bit longer, but especially with the Americans pressing for an end to the war as well, I can hardly conceive of Israel building a refugee city by whatever label you slap on it that will cause Israel to be further enmeshed in Gaza for another year or more. The idea beyond the practicalities of it, beyond the moral dubiousness of it, is extremely unlikely to happen, and I have to view it as a negotiating tactic, essentially.
Okay.
Various polls show that despite being hugely unpopular a few years back, Prime Minister Netanyahu's popularity at home has taken a bump up since its war in Iran. How do you square that with the growing condemnation that Israel has received for its war in Gaza?
Well, for one thing, the people who support Netanyahu have sort of priced the condemnation into their larger political equation, meaning they don't care. For another, the bump has been small. It's been 1 or 2 or maybe 3 percentage points, and that is actually surprising to me, given what was a considerable scale of Israel's success in Iran, where they controlled the skies of Iran, eliminated much of the Iranian military leadership within minutes, set back the nuclear program and the missile program considerably. All that is really quite something. So Netanyahu, I think, expected a bigger bump. The way things are right now, if elections were to be held soon, he may well still lose. And I would actually add that his main prospects for finding a way to become electable again go not through a continuation of this unbelievably ugly war in Gaza, but rather through finding a way to end it, perhaps collecting normalization with Saudi Arabia and other countries, and repositioning himself as a leader of Israel that stands for something approaching peace as opposed to this abomination that we observe.
Well, on that point, how would you say Israel's long-term standing internationally has been impacted by Prime Minister Netanyahu and his government's actions over the past 2 years?
It's clearly not being impacted very well when he himself and others are wanted for war crimes by various courts at The Hague. And when people speak of boycotts of Israel, and the Europeans are threatening to reconsider Israel's associate membership status. But he has a big friend in the White House in Trump who doesn't care about humanitarian issues or much else beyond the most vulgar transactions. And Trump also, it must be said from an Israeli perspective, in favor of Trump, has no illusions about the depth and scale of the predicament facing Israel in its fight against various genocidal jihadi terrorist groups like Hamas. Trump is sympathetic to Israel, and that might certainly help Netanyahu. I think Israel's overall international standing will suffer very greatly if Netanyahu should win another election, and they should continue the policies which basically are dragging Israel in a direction of a right-wing religious state, away from democratic norms, towards indifference to opinion in the West, and also, frankly, towards a place where there will be at loggerheads with American Jews.
Dan Perry, Israeli affairs analyst and former chair of the Foreign Press Association in Israel. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily.
Church leaders and diplomats are visiting the predominantly Christian town of Taibe in the occupied West Bank after it was attacked by Israeli settlers. Heads of the churches called for settlers to be held accountable for their crimes. Last week, settlers started fires near the remains of a 5th century church and attacked local people. Representatives from more than 20 countries, including the European Union, were among the delegates. Al Jazeera correspondent Nida Ibrahim joins us now in the studio for more on this. Nida, tell us about Taibe and what's been happening there.
Well, what's been happening is that Israeli settlers have been attacking Palestinians there. A church, an archaeological church from the 5th century. It had ruins that people were still using in some religious ceremonies in the area. But Israeli settlers came there. They set up fire not once, but twice to the area, including the cemetery nearby, as well as bringing their cattle, their sheep, to graze in the lands where Palestinians have been growing olive trees. They've been making a living out of these olive trees for years, if not decades. And now we are talking about another threat.
Word is he's about to make a big announcement.
This is an all-Christian village in the occupied West Bank, the last remaining that is all Christian. We have Christians all around the occupied West Bank, but this one is all Christian community, has churches. It's a very proud community that has been under attack for years, but this time it seems that this church is also under attack, as we've seen Israeli settlers come time and again, not just on Monday of last week, but also on Friday.
Give us their opinion
what church leaders have
about
been
what's
calling
going on
a systemic and targeted attack against Christians.
So
we're talking about 50,000 of them only in the occupied West Bank, already a very small but very proud minority. And they also consider themselves under attack, not just because they're Christians, but because they're Palestinians. But still, this is something that the church is very worried about. It has been trying for years to enhance the steadfastness of the Christian community amongst Palestine and get them to stay as long as possible. But these acts of settler attacks are not helping, as you've been seeing, not just in Taibe, but all across the occupied West Bank. We've been seeing how Israeli settlers are pushing Palestinians out of their lands, out of their homes. It's really something that has been very alarming, and that's why we've seen members of the community, priests, as well as the heads of churches of Jerusalem deliver statements to the European Union, to these representatives of 20 countries, that they should intervene to do something when it comes to holding settlers accountable. The key word here, Melina, as we always say, is impunity. Israeli settlers feel that they have a free hand to do whatever they want in the occupied West Bank when it comes to attacking Palestinians, because they feel that they're backed by their state and they will get away with anything.
Many thanks, Nida Ibrahim. The U.S. is expected to announce further support for Ukraine as President Donald Trump's frustration mounts with Russia over the three-year war. U.S. Special Envoy Keith Kellogg has held talks with Ukraine's president after arriving in Kyiv for a week-long visit. This trip comes as President Trump is due to meet with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte in Washington in the coming hour. Well, Trump earlier confirmed the U.S. will sell Patriot air defense missiles to European partners, which will be sent to Ukraine to bolster its defenses against Russian attacks. This is the biggest announcement ever. Well, we have correspondents covering the story in the United States and in Ukraine. Kimberly Holkett is standing by for us at the White House ahead of that NATO meeting. First, let's go to Rory Challens in Kyiv. Rory, so Donald Trump's position on Ukraine seems to have shifted once again. Talk us through it.
Well, ahead of this big announcement from Donald Trump later on today, whatever it might be, the Ukrainian government is being quite vague. Even if it knows what Donald Trump is going to say, it's certainly not going to steal his thunder by giving away any details. So yes, we do have a readout from the Zelensky administration about what he and his senior cabinet,
what was the announcement?
And Keith Kellogg, the
we are waiting on the announcement,
have been discussing, but beyond that, we don't know
supposed to start at 9.
Exactly what's being decided. So we're talking.
So we're waiting. It's today sometime.
About Russia's air assaults on civilian targets and civilian infrastructure, and Ukraine's stretched air defense systems. The Zelensky administration says that in June, over 330 missiles were launched at Ukraine by Russia, 5,000 long-range attack drones, an equal number of aerial bombs. In July, the figure is likely to be much larger than that. They also discussed the front lines and the needs of the Ukrainian military. They discussed the willingness of Ukraine to buy American weaponry, particularly air defense systems.
That's what they're saying right now.
Production of drones, perhaps. They also talked about a sanctions package, which US senators are working on at the moment. Obviously, Ukraine wants Russia to be hit with more sanctions, and Ukraine always careful to say thank you to the United States for everything that it gets
administration, they was giving the stuff
Rory,
away.
this comes during a record week of Russian attacks.
They're not giving Ukraine the stuff this time. They are selling it to them.
Yeah, well, there's been a huge number of aerial targets sent at Ukraine over the last few weeks or so. Pretty much every night there has been a large-scale attack somewhere in the country. Kiev's been hit at least twice by massive air assaults over the last couple of weeks. The west of Ukraine has been particularly hit too. The number of air assaults, well, on July the 9th, there was a record set for Ukraine with more than 700 drones and decoys being sent in a single night, and many, many ballistic missiles as well. So the strain is being put almost every night on Ukraine's air defense systems. That's why they talk so much about needing more Patriot systems. They don't shoot down the drones, but they are important at downing ballistic missiles, and they are also talking about how interceptor drones, homegrown interceptor drones, are being increasingly important in the battle for the skies.
Thank you so much for that. Rory Challens there for us in Kyiv. Let's bring in our White House correspondent, Kimberly Holkett, who is in Washington, D.C. So the NATO Secretary General expected to meet with U.S. President Donald Trump soon. What are we expecting?
Yeah, well, right now we know that that meeting's set to take place at the top of the hour, and so far, cameras not allowed in. It is closed press. That can change, and so we're hopeful that it will, so that we can get a better understanding of what the U.S. president really has on his mind. But he made some of that clear on Sunday when he spoke to reporters returning to the White House. He basically said that he is frustrated with Vladimir Putin and the fact that the talks to end the war, a campaign promise for Donald Trump, have not progressed as he would like. He said that Putin talks beautifully, but then he bombs at night, and we don't like that. And so this is the action that the U.S. president has decided to take. Selling weapons, as we've already been discussing, to NATO, which in turn would allow for Ukraine to pick up these weapons. Now, this is obviously a different approach than the predecessor, Joe Biden, who, of course, supplied an enormous amount of weapons during his tenure. But there is shifting support in the United States among U.S. taxpayers that feel they are struggling and can ill afford to continue financing this, as well as Trump supporters. And so as a result, this is why we see the U.S. president promising that the NATO will pay for these weapons 100%, and that the U.S. taxpayers won't be hurt. Now, as Rory mentioned, this is also coming on the heels of the fact that the U.S. Senate is as well taking punitive action, just waiting for the green light from the U.S. president, putting in place legislation, tariffs of 500% on any country that is working with Russia to purchase its oil, gas, uranium, other minerals. And so the real idea is to try and cripple those industries. This is something that the U.S. president may comment on today, on Monday. It's, again, just waiting for the U.S. president's support to move ahead. This is bipartisan legislation. So really kind of a two-pronged approach coming out of the United States right now.
Many thanks for that. Kimberly Holcutt there for us in Washington. Officials in Texas have issued a new weather warning saying more flash floods are likely in the coming days. They've ordered people to immediately evacuate their homes along the Guadalupe River.
In the coming months. So we will have to work strategically under the guidance of the leaders on the two sides to frame how we can keep on joining forces, developing local and local cooperation and increasing ambition in this agenda. I have some minutes to get into more details or questions that you may raise. But I could underscore the fact that it has been quite a very interesting meeting, full afternoon and evening discussion that could frame our conversations not only in this occasion, in this 2025 year, but in the years to come.
Thank you, Executive Vice President.
Guys, a lot of y'all that's commenting, YouTube is cracking down on how you word your comments. So a lot of comments that are coming in, I can't see them on YouTube, and nobody can see your comment on YouTube, but I can see them in my streaming app. But you got to word your comments in a more positive way, because YouTube is really cracking down on how we comment in these comment sections. So that's just a heads up. If you're wondering why I'm not really reading your comment, it's because I can't see it on YouTube. And I like to read the comments coming directly from YouTube, not from the streaming app. So if I'm not reading your comment, word it differently, right? You know, don't be so vulgar. Word it in an intelligent way. Otherwise, it won't show up. YouTube is cracking down on a lot of stuff, guys. Let's go back.
It's probably the topic where we feel more comfortable, where we share values, where we share the conviction that it is the way forward and that it has to happen in the context of the UN system, and that it is very important to back the multilateral context and the Paris Agreement. So this is an expression of willingness that resounds very clearly in the statements and in the comments being made by the leaders, and will still be the case. This is very well organized.
Yes, Joe Lay from the Financial Times. Did China agree on any concrete targets for NDCs at the meeting?
We were discussing on how committed we were to raise the ambition according to what the Article 4 states in the Paris Agreement. So respecting the capability and the duty of each party to the Paris Agreement to make its best effort.
Hope you're having a great
of course, each country,
each
party is doing its best. You know that we have come up in the European Union with this amendment to the climate law for 2040, and we have underscored the importance of coming up with an updated NDC for 2030 by the COP, eventually before. And this is the type of exercise that they are also undertaking. They have committed to an NDC that it is comprehensive in terms of the whole economy being under the scope, taking into consideration all the greenhouse gases, and that they will come up later on with a concrete update during the fall, which is very much in line with what it is expected in timing, and of course, as I said, committed to the terms that are reflected in Article 4 of the Paris Agreement.
Next question. Bloomberg.
Hi again, James May from Bloomberg News. I have two quick questions. One, the EU, sorry, my glasses. EU trade ministers are currently meeting in Brussels to discuss, amongst other things, response to Trump tariffs or Trump threat of 30% tariffs. Also, response to trade tensions or how to deal with trade tensions with China. Should the EU retaliate against
Trump
the EU tariffs? And did any of these trade tensions between China and the EU come up in your discussions today? And then you said that climate is an area where you're more comfortable and where there can be cooperation with the Chinese. Do you expect to have any kind of announcements on climate at the summit next week? And is that really going to be the only area where the two sides can meet in any way amicably? Thank you.
No, thank you so much for the two questions, which I find very interesting and very timely. So allow me to clarify and to make some comments. First, I could say that we have got a very deep and positive conversation. The two teams have worked very well, and the high-level debates, the high-level discussions have gone very well.
Because it's trying to stay away from
that we have been focusing on what it is in our agenda, which is the climate and environment.
A lot of people are
really,
really upset
immediately
with Trump because
after
he didn't release those files. Yeah, we were real upset.
So not a direct conversation on trade. But it is also true that, as I said, we have a long list of things where we will need to understand better how we can work
upset with him
and
too.
how we can improve our relations,
I'm upset
and how
with
we can
him
solve
he didn't release
problems.
the files.
For the time being, today, which is already quite an important thing in this given time,
and we got to keep talking about that.
The support, the agreement dealing with climate, energy, and environment is large.
Because they said they was going to release the files, and they haven't did it.
Second question, sorry, you said on the leaders. Let's see.
But
I think that
we got to force them.
The leaders will be willing to speak about these topics next week.
So we got to remember that. We can't stop talking about those files.
You were saying that just now that it was important that European Union and China should deepen their relations. I'm wondering what exactly do you mean by that, and what are the necessary steps that the European Union should take to deepen its relationship with China? And is that because of the changing relationship with the United States?
Exactly. Did you see him?
The Chinese would
at the Stock of Max? Yeah. Yep. Everybody's upset, bro. ma'am, everybody's upset.
How do you square Europe's resistance?
And we got to stay on the prize. We got to stay talking about that.
I think that we have stated very clearly that we feel committed by the World Trade rules and that we need to preserve an open economy, an open market such as the European one, on the basis of transparency, predictability, rule of law and level playing field. And this is what it has driven to certain doubts on how it could work, the access to our single market on basis that may be not taking into consideration the full engagement with these rules. So there may be procedures ongoing which are absolutely independently or what it is happening with one big economic power challenging the traditional way we approach trade, but that may apply to bilateral relations with third countries. So, of course, there are things that we need to clarify with many other countries, including with China. And I think that this is what we will need to take into consideration in the time to come, being firm on the way we apply around regulation. At the very same time, it is also true. You made a comment that there is this assumption that counting on cheap equipment could be good. To boost the potential of new developments and new decarbonization pathways at the European market that could be beneficial. And it may be truth on one side, but as you also know, it may be difficult in terms of how it could impact in the capacity first to ensure a level playing field. So we cannot accept any type of dumping practices and so on and so on. At the very same time, it could be difficult in terms of providing the rule of law and predictability, so to ensure that the standard way to produce goods and to keep on reinvesting in new developments could take place. So it is showing that there may be things to be improved in the international trade context, how we can anticipate and how we can avoid that any type of overcapacity, overproduction may be affecting other geographies, how we can help to prevent any type of mutual harm, how we can ensure that the full enforcement of the laws takes place and it is respected, protecting the rule of law, and at the very same time giving a clear message on where we can work and we can be open and acceding to an attractive market, and where this mission to protect the well-functioning market could prevent any type of practice that could not comply with the World Trade Organization rules.
Yes, el país.
I would like to know what is the chance to speak with the Chinese side, and what is the preferred model for Chinese companies going to the European Union and working there, technology companies maybe automotive companies. And also, if there is any agreement clause about the Chinese tariffs with the Chinese side.
So we didn't come, I will insist once again, we did not come to deal or to discuss any type of tensions around trade flows or about the functioning of the reciprocal markets. And it is true that the car industry is willing to see how this can be something that could be
and that they say is unacceptable to them.
They're concerned that few people understand the proposals that are being made. Carbon trading allows companies to offset carbon emissions by investing in projects that reduce pollutions, mostly in developing countries.
Does the agreement bind me in such a way that I cannot absolutely do anything else to my land other than having to discuss it with the company that is bringing the carbon offset project? I would say no. Because if I'm signing over the rights of my land to somebody else, that is a land grab.
Soils for Africa local representatives say they are overseeing other projects successfully. They say they don't force people to join their projects.
Our agreements are actually for 40 years. Reason being, the impact that we are trying to create cannot be created in 1 day, 5 months, 2 years.
This is not an isolated case. Kenya hosts about 400 carbon credit projects. Most of them are foreign-owned. Some have been marred by similar controversial deals.
The beneficiaries of these schemes are polluters and brokers, mainly at the expense of communities who have been suffering the climate crisis. Now they are losing their land.
The Kenyan government says such projects will help vulnerable communities deal with climate change. The pastoralists tell us they're not opposed to climate deals, but they just want what's fair. Catherine Soy, Al Jazeera, Kajiado, Southern Kenya.
Wow.
Cameroon's president has announced that he will run in the October election, seeking an unprecedented 8th term. Paul Biya has been in power for nearly 43 years, and at 92 is the...
I gotta hear that again about Kenya and Africa.
They fear a carbon offset project that has divided the community. A US-affiliated organization called Soils for the Future wanted to make a deal with them. The proposal was to store carbon in their 160,000-hectare property. Samuel Kudate, who has lived here in southern Kenya all his life, doesn't think it's a good idea.
They're trying to take them people land over there.
The company is not being truthful. The agreement that was in place was not clear to me. We were not called by our leaders to discuss the issue in detail. There has been a lot of secrecy.
10,000 times 100, never knew 1 million.
Those opposed to the project meet to say no to any further negotiations.
These herders say they know how to manage their land. They've done it for centuries, but they're worried about this project because they believe it limits the access to areas where their livestock can go to graze, and that they say is unacceptable to them.
They're concerned that few people understand the proposals that are being made. Carbon trading allows companies to offset carbon emissions by investing in projects that reduce pollutions, mostly in developing countries.
Does the agreement bind me in such a way that I cannot absolutely do anything else to my land other than having to discuss it with the company that is bringing the carbon offset project?
Wow.
I would say no. Because if I'm signing over the rights of my land to somebody else, that is a land grab.
Soils for Africa local representatives say they are overseeing other projects successfully. They say they don't...
Crazy work. Trying to say that them people don't know how to take care of their land. Trying to tell them what to do on their land. They trying to take their land. It's crazy work. Seem like they know what they're doing. The cows looking, pretty good. It's crazy work. Yeah, that's crazy work, bro.
Who is living in peace must stop.
Keep America out of Africa, period. They're making a play to take the people's land. Yeah, that's how I understood it. They're trying to take the people's land, bro. Trying to take the people's land. That's wild.
The United States is expected to announce further support for Ukraine as President Donald Trump's frustration mounts with Russia over the 3-year war. US Special Envoy Keith Kellogg has held talks with Ukraine's president after arriving in Kyiv for a week-long visit.
Is going to make it even
worse. As President Trump is set to meet with the NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte.
They don't know what they're doing on their land.
Earlier confirmed the US will sell Patriot air defense missiles to Europe's partners. that will be sent to Ukraine to bolster its defences
Those
against
cows
Russian
that they had
attacks.
on that land look better than a lot of cows that I see
live in Washington,
out here where I'm
D.C.
at.
So, Kimberly, that meeting between the NATO Secretary and Donald Trump expected to begin any minute now, we believe. What's on the agenda?
Yeah, we're watching carefully. So far, it's been pretty quiet here at the White House. So if the Secretary General is actually here at the White House, he evaded the cameras and potentially could be in the Oval Office right now. That's when the meeting was scheduled to begin at the top of this hour. So we expect it underway, but again, being done behind closed doors. So we're watching carefully to see what emerges from the meeting. What we do know is that the U.S. president is centering this meeting around weapons for Ukraine. Namely, the United States is planning to sell them to NATO and in turn would be reimbursed some 100%, the president says. And then those would be sent on to Ukraine. Now, the U.S. president had been billing this as a major announcement, so we're looking for some details. But what we do know is this is a very different approach to supporting Ukraine than Donald Trump's predecessor, Joe Biden, who, in conjunction with the U.S. Congress, sent billions of dollars to Ukraine. But there has been shifting support in the United States, particularly among U.S. taxpayers who say they're struggling and can no longer afford to help finance the defense of Ukraine. So that's why we see the U.S. president taking a somewhat different approach. And as we said at the start of the program, the U.S. president frustrated with Vladimir Putin, the pace of talks, saying that really the Russian president speaking on both sides of his mouth, saying he talks so beautifully, but then he bombs at night. Now, the U.S. president did plan to try and end this war through talks, so he is increasingly frustrated that that has not occurred. Now, simultaneously, we should point out, waiting in the wings is legislation on Capitol Hill to take punitive action against Russia and any country that does business with it, buying oil, gas, uranium, that any nation that does so would be taxed or tariffed rather, some 500% on their goods being sold to the United States. So this is something that the legislation, which is bipartisan, is just waiting for green light from the U.S. president. So it's really a double-pronged attack or approach, really, that the U.S. is trying to take in order to try and end this conflict. But again, this is what's being discussed at the White House right now with the UN Secretary, or rather the NATO Secretary General, and we're just waiting sort of updates from the U.S. President as well as the Secretary General on next steps.
Okay, thank you for that. Kimberly Holker there for us at the White House.
Africa is a lost cause.
Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has arrived in Beijing ahead of talks with the Chinese President Xi Jinping. He's there to deepen economic cooperation with China, which is Australia's top trading partner, while taking into account the security concerns of its population and its most important ally, the United States. Katrina Yu reports from Beijing.
At this steakhouse in Beijing, one ingredient takes center stage: Australian beef. Imports to China have surged this year by about 30% compared to 2024.
In China, we can only get either Australian or American
like
beef.
A couple of guys said, my boy Tim said go.
Getting some feedback from customers, we stick with the Australian one. Yeah, because of its texture. Texture is more tender.
Washington's trade war with Beijing has impacted American supplies, adding to the appeal of Australian imports that are known in China for their high quality. It's this reputation that Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese wants to capitalise on during his 6-day visit to China.
1 in 4 of Australian jobs depends upon our trade, and around about 25% of our exports go to one destination, China.
While in Shanghai, the Australian leader launched a tourism campaign aimed at attracting Chinese travellers. Trade between their countries spans agriculture to education, but Australia's primary export is iron ore that helps fuel China's vast steel sector. That trade, however, is threatened by Beijing's push to clean up the industry and use so-called green steel.
I think what we'll see is some more clarity around the future of steel and iron. That's particularly also looking at the delegation that is accompanying Albanese in China. There seems to be a very strong focus around these natural resources.
Chinese investment in Australia has been restricted by national security concerns that are shared by its most important defense ally, the United States. Washington and Canberra are both wary of China's growing influence in the Asia-Pacific. Prime Minister Albanese is expected to meet with Chinese leader Xi Jinping in Beijing and must walk a difficult tightrope in balancing Australia's economic interests with its security concerns. Expanding business ties may be his goal, but behind the scenes are disagreements over China's military activities in the region and its detention of Australian nationals due to spying allegations. But for those in China with an appetite for Australian goods, Albanese's visit is good news. They're hoping it will ensure a steady supply to satisfy local demand. Katrina Yu, Al Jazeera, Beijing.
Still ahead on Al Jazeera, children living in cramped tents with no clean water. Doctors in Gaza warn of a worrying rise in meningitis
Africa
cases.
and Kenya go, I think they only show
and
us
Kenya's controversial
what they
carbon
want us to
credits
see.
and why
But
herders
my
are
boy
worried.
ATM Tim, he's actually been out there before, so he knows, more about the other side. And what, most people know. But I think they only show us
the Western Pacific through the Philippines to about northern Sumatra, where the heavy rain is likely to cause some trouble. In fact, there's a warning out in northern Sumatra because of the potential for that. And it looks like we might see flooding return at least to the northern Philippines.
There's something
this
up under their
of the
soil
circulation has been realised in the north. Tropical storm rushing up towards Hokkaido to make a fairly rare first landfall in that part of Japan.
Word.
And in fact, it is Japan and the Korean Peninsula where most of the heavy rain is. During Tuesday, we'll see some showers in Beijing, 1 or 2 around about Hong Kong, but actually the bulk of China is much drier than it has been for the last couple of weeks, with that rain, as I say, heading back in towards South Korea. There'll be more flooding as a result of that. Okay, now the monsoon flow is fairly obvious here through the Maldives and across towards northern Sumatra, but otherwise it's fairly quiet in this part of India, especially in the west.
January 31st, 2026. We thank Panama and the United States for facilitating the negotiations and extend our appreciation to the delegations that supported our call for stronger language in the text, signaling the Council's intention to consider without delay the Secretary General's recommendations of increased UN support to Haiti with the urgency the situation demands. The A3 Plus reiterated its full support for the renewal of BNU's mandate and looks forward to...
No, I'm not in Kenya. We was watching a little clip about how they're trying to take those people's land over there.
We acknowledge the dedication and commitment of the BNU team in executing their mandate and trying to make a tangible difference in the lives of the Haitian people, despite the personal and operational challenges stemming from the dangerous environment in which the mission is forced to operate. In this respect, we have taken note of the steps taken by the UN Secretariat to adapt the implementation of the mission's mandate to the changed operating environment in Haiti and the 4 strategic measures outlined to ensure a more focused and impactful mission.
Yes, I have.
We underscore the need to ensure that the mission is adequately resourced and equipped to support the Haitian-led effort to restore security and stability, including by strengthening national institutions, building the capacity of the HNP, and supporting political dialogue, justice reform, and community violence reduction, inter alia, now
Africa
and for the longer term.
Thank the representative of Sierra Leone for the statement, and I now give the floor to the representative of China.
President,
so we can control
China welcomes the unanimous adoption of the Council of Resolution 2785 on renewal of the BNU's mandate. The
I've never been to Africa, but my boy ATM Tim,
the extension of BNU's mandate will enable UN to continue support to the stabilization of Haiti. It reflects the international community's shared will and the collective actions to support Haiti in overcoming its challenges. In this connection, I reiterate China's support for BNU, commend SISG Salvador for her work over the past 2 years, and congratulates SISG Matthew on his appointment. Of the many crises in Haiti, political crisis is a critical one. Supporting Haitian political process is a core mandate of BNU as a special political mission. China calls on all Haitian parties and factions to strengthen unity and step up to their responsibilities. We hope to see and support BNU's enhanced efforts to advance the political process through coordination and collaboration with CARICOM and other regional organizations. We note the efforts made by the Secretariat to optimize implementation of the BNU's mandate. We hope that it will keep up the communication with the Council on the matter, and that these changes will help the mission better adapt to the evolving situations and play its role more effectively. President, the resolution just adopted reaffirms the Council's continued support for a comprehensive solution led and owned by the Haitian people to address the root causes of the multifaceted crisis in Haiti. We support the Haitian authorities, regional countries, and the international community in taking multi-pronged measures in areas of political process, security support, arms embargo, sanctioning the gangs, economic development, and humanitarian assistance to tackle both the symptoms and root causes of crisis and forge synergy. With regard to how to improve the situation in Haiti, including how to respond to the SG's recommendations, we are ready to have candid communication with all parties, explore viable solutions, and seek the broadest possible consensus. China is willing to continue working with the international community to play a constructive role in helping Haiti find the right path out of the crisis sooner than later. Thank you, President.
Representative of China for the statement, and I now give the floor to the representative of Haiti.
Merci, Monsieur. Thank you, Mr. President.
Right now, they're discussing the gang violence in Haiti.
Of the Security Council, namely the co-penholders on Haiti, Panama and the United States of America, of North America. I thank both for having facilitated the unanimous adoption of this draft resolution, extending until the 31st of January 2026 the mandate of the United Nations Integrated Office in Haiti. I'd also like to take this opportunity to welcome the Special Representative of the Secretary General and our head of BNU, Mr. Carlos Massieu. I wish him every success as he replaces Ms. Salvador Isabel, who did sterling work. The extension of BNU's mandate should help Haitian authorities to undertake a real, genuine political dialogue, to strengthen good governance, to bolster security, and to bring about justice and to promote human rights. These tasks are more timely than ever before. We have a great many lofty expectations where BNU is concerned in terms of helping us to implement the primary components of the government's roadmap. These include the planning and implementation of the calendar of constitutional reforms and elections, bolstering institutional capacity, namely in the fields of justice, and the capacity of the national police. We also hope to see better coordination of humanitarian and security action, coordination that is with that action performed by other UN agencies and international partners, namely OAS and CARICOM. BNU must work as part of a holistic plan aiming to support the Haitian authorities and allowing them to tackle the grave crisis shaking the country to its core. We are satisfied to note the Council's will, as expressed in this resolution, to consider without delay the recommendations made by the Secretary General on the 24th of February 2025, recommendations regarding the options for the role that the United Nations organization could play to maintain security and stability in Haiti. To conclude, Mr. President, I wish to thank all speakers that have taken the floor to support this resolution and support Haiti. And I'd also like to thank our CARICOM friends represented here by Barbados, for the support that has been unstinting from them to Haiti. Thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the representative of Haiti for the statement. I now give the floor to the representative of Barbados.
Thank you, Mr. President, for giving me the floor. I have the honor to deliver this intervention on behalf of the 14 member states of the Caribbean Community, CARICOM. CARICOM welcomes the Council's unanimous decision to renew the mandate of the UN Integrated Office in Haiti. We express our appreciation in particular to the penholders, Panama and the United States. BNU has played, is playing, and will continue to play a critical role in supporting Haiti's emergence from the present multidimensional crisis. In this regard, Haiti, BNU, the entire UN system, and the multinational security support force can continue to count on CARICOM's total commitment to achieving the goal of peace, security, and sustainable development, which is critical to the people of Haiti and those of the entire Caribbean region. CARICOM is convinced that Haiti can emerge from its present situation on the basis of Haitian-led solutions and resolute support from the international community. CARICOM heads of government reiterated their concern and commitment at their meeting only last week in Jamaica, and I quote, CARICOM heads of government committed to redouble their efforts to engage with all relevant actors for the mobilization of resources for security support and to provide direct humanitarian assistance. Heads of government agreed that urgent action is needed on the humanitarian crisis in Haiti and called on international partners to pay attention to and to provide support which is needed to bring security and stability to Haiti. CARICOM also welcomes the Council's commitment to consider without delay the recommendations made by the Secretary General on 24 February 2025 on the options for the possible role of the UN that the UN could play to sustain security and stability in Haiti. Our region had earlier expressed strong support for these recommendations, and we take this opportunity to reiterate that support.
All right, so we are listening to Barbados right there at the UN Security Council as they're discussing the ongoing gang violence in Haiti. In fact, Port-au-Prince, Haiti, the capital there, now 90.
Some have been marred by similar controversial deals.
The beneficiaries of these schemes are polluters and brokers, mainly at the expense of communities who have been suffering the climate crisis. Now they are losing their land.
The Kenyan government says such projects will help vulnerable communities deal with climate change. The pastoralists tell us they're not opposed to climate deals, but they just want what's fair. Catherine Soy, Al Jazeera, Kajiado, Southern Kenya.
Kenya's president has announced that he will run in the October.
Let's get back over here.
Out of this Oval Office meeting, and we will be bringing that to you. We're also monitoring another live look right here. We did have a live look at a podium. That live look has now been taken down, but you're taking a live look at Fall River, Massachusetts. This is where an assisted living facility at least partially went up into flames. And in fact, as soon as we were talking about the podium, we have a live look once again right here, courtesy of WNAC. We are expecting to get another update from police on this deadly assisted living facility fire. At least 9 people so far have lost their lives and dozens of others injured in this fire. No word yet on exactly what caused the fire, and perhaps that is something that we will be hearing a little bit about. But you can see the podium just outside across the street from that facility, something that we're monitoring here. And another live look that we're getting into our live now from Fox studio takes us to Sarasota, Florida, where we're expecting to hear from Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. No word yet from his office about exactly what he is going to be speaking about, but you can see that everyone now is seated, and so this also might get underway. We're going to monitor that and bring that to you. In the meantime, we are going to step away for a brief break right here on Live Now from Fox. Much more coverage to come.
Haiti is the most confusing and sad situation I still can't believe after liberating themselves and more than half of South America from slavery, they have to pay France. Wow. Yeah, that's sad. So we're waiting to hear the remarks from the White House. They're taking a little bit too long. Appreciate y'all for joining me. We got 19 likes, 18 people in here. Appreciate y'all for hitting the like button. Appreciate y'all for kicking it with me. Let's see. Hope y'all having a great morning. It is Monday morning. Hope y'all having a great morning.
The Irish government made a formal state apology in 2021 after an inquiry found that in all 9,000 children had died in 18 institutions. An estimated 100,000 babies were removed from their mothers and given up for adoption, many sent abroad. The horrors of Tuam, then, are only the start. Jonah Hull, Al Jazeera, Tuam, County Galway.
Bastille Day celebrations are underway in France. President Emmanuel Macron viewed the traditional parade along the Champs-Élysées in Paris. National Day marks the beginning of the French Revolution in 1789. It is celebrated with parades, fireworks and festivities across the country. That's it from me, Marlene Said. Lots more information, our website, aljazeera.com. Do check it out. Rob Matheson will be here in around 30 minutes with the news hour. Do stay with us.
Let's see what's going on with the stock market this morning so far. We had a pullback on NVIDIA. S&P 500 is pulling back right now, but we're steady on the uptrend. Let's see. Tesla had a good pullback. Microsoft is just about even. Bitcoin is now pulling back after the great run-up. So yeah, everything's looking okay. Only thing is we got to see what Trump is about to announce. Okay, let me get off of that. Oh, it didn't even switch. Boom, there we go. I guess I'll do that again. But we got NVIDIA pulling back. S&P, Tesla is pulling back. Bitcoin is basically the top news of the day when it comes to crypto. Bitcoin went above 123. It's pulling back a little bit, back down to 121. That's great to see. All right.
Envoy to continue its important work. This should be done with an eye towards the UN's imperative to streamline operations and optimize resource allocation. Last week, the Houthis launched unprovoked terror attacks on 2 civilian cargo vessels, Magic Seas and Eternity Sea in the Red Sea. The latter attack resulted in the tragic loss of at least 4 mariners, many others injured, and the complete loss of both ships. The Houthis then kidnapped many of the crew of Eternity Sea, adding to the numbers the Houthis have unjustifiably detained. We call for the kidnapped crew members' immediate and unconditional release, just as we continue to call for the release of staff of the UN, NGOs, and diplomatic missions. The United States strongly condemns these attacks, which demonstrate the ongoing threat that Iran-backed Houthis pose to freedom of navigation and regional security. This Council should give its full support to UN mechanisms that actually do make a difference in countering the Houthi threat recognized by Security Council Resolution 2216. One is the Yemen Panel of Experts. One member of this Council speaks about the importance of UNMAHA, yet at the same time, it impedes the work of the panel and frustrates the will of this Council by blocking the appointment of the panel's arms expert. Another important UN tool for enforcement.
Absurdity is visible to Trump, and this is a big deal for him personally. And it's a way for Netanyahu to get what he wants out of Trump.
Trump loves bright and shiny objects. If you're head of state, there are few objects more bright or shiny than a Nobel Peace Prize. Additionally, for Trump, basking in Netanyahu's praise plays very well with important elements of his fan base, of the MAGA cult. These are people who may say America first, but what they often mean by this is Israel first and America second.
Wow. Which more and more MAGA voices out to make.
Did y'all hear what he said? America first really means Israel first and America second.
Conflicts overseas, those forever wars.
We will measure our success not only by the battles we win, but also by the wars we end, and perhaps most importantly, the wars we never get into.
Now his MAGA base sees Trump bankrolling and arming Israel's genocidal assault on Gaza, as his predecessor Joe Biden did, then bombing nuclear sites in Iran, drawing the U.S. further into the fray rather than taking it out. You won't see many of those critical MAGA voices on mainstream U.S. news outlets. Most of them do their thing on their own platforms, where they can attract huge numbers.
Every single Republican I'm aware of is like in this weird kind of Israel worship mode all the time.
Those voices include hardcore conservatives, like former Fox News host Tucker Carlson, and ex-Trump operative Steve Bannon.
I think we're one of the biggest defenders of Israel and the nation of Israel around. But this can't go on.
When they zero in on the White House, they are tactful, deferential, complaining about the policy, not the president who signed off on it.
This is just a recognition of political reality, which is Donald Trump does not react very well to personal criticism. When these commentators were critical of our involvement in the Iran-Israel war a few weeks ago, Trump immediately took to his social media platform and started saying, I am the leader of the MAGA movement, not Tucker Carlson. It was clearly a smackdown. And so if you are actually serious about changing policy, obviously you're going to criticize the policy, but in a way that is oriented towards changing the politician's behavior.
Steve Bannon and Tucker Carlson are people who traditionally had nothing negative to say about Israel. What's changed is that they now see U.S. policy as being driven by Israeli rather than U.S. priorities. They believe the Iran war was a case of Trump being snookered by Netanyahu. So their opposition to Israel is not so much a principled or moral one, but one based on the U.S. being diverted by Israel from what they believe should be Trump's real priorities.
A lot of these critiques are coming from right-wing media spaces that are outside of the mainstream media ecosystem. We don't really hear this kind of questioning from any U.S. news channel, let alone Fox News, for example. Why is that? Well, it's because pro-Israel media bias has been normalized across the spectrum in the mainstream media in the United States.
That pro-Israel media bias is not just normalized, it is enforced. Right-wing podcasters are not beholden to corporate bosses or shareholders. They generate most of their revenue through donations and subscriptions.
Support us. Become a monthly subscriber or an annual subscriber, whatever it is you can do to keep us independent, because we are...
News organizations, on the other hand, rely primarily on advertising, which creates a vulnerability. Because for any lobby group, including pro-Israeli ones in the US, it is far easier to target a handful of advertisers, companies, and corporations than millions of individuals.
Fareed Zakaria GPS, brought to you by Citi.
You have these pro-Israel organizations that aggressively lobby media editorial boards and newsrooms, making it very difficult for them to do their jobs. They put out statements saying CNN is anti-Semitic because they aired some story about Gaza. That sort of stuff scares advertisers. They're looking to make money, not to make a political statement. So on Fox and on CNN, their advertisers, shareholders, they want a pro-Israel line. And if they don't get it, they'll just take their money elsewhere.
There's another part of this pressure system. Groups like Camera and the so-called Honest Reporting Group, they go after reporters, editors, and newsrooms. If anybody attempts to do their job and produce fact-based journalism about Israel's treatment of the Palestinians, they will be bombarded by threats, letters, and posts on social media calling them anti-Semitic and liars. These groups demand public apologies and correction notes, and they specify language that they'd like to see that mimics Israel's talking points. Why does this work? Because they're aggressive and consistent in doing it. And those who are fighting on the other side for an accurate reflection of the genocide of the Palestinians are just not as powerful.
Despite that, significant cracks are appearing, seismic shifts in the US body politic. The polls now being reported on mainstream news outlets that remain in Israel's corner, if not Donald Trump's.
In 2017, the Democratic Party was a pro-Israeli party. Look at this. They sympathized with the Israelis by 13 points, more with the Israelis than the Palestinians. But look at this sea change.
A from the river to the sea change. Not that one would know that, given the pro-Israel rhetoric still coming out of the Democratic Party's bigwigs.
Now Democrats sympathize more with the Palestinians by 43 points. Oh my God, that is a change.
Part of this is just the nature of the news business. You cannot just magic up new voices to represent changes in public opinion out of nowhere. There is a career path here.
Israel is our friend, and Israel and the United States share a special relationship and similar values in standing up to these terrorists.
And so the people you're going to see invited onto these shows are always going to lag public sentiment to a certain degree.
How significant is it that influential voices like Tucker Carlson and Steve Bannon are changing their rhetoric? It's a big deal. But will it move us closer to stopping the genocide? I don't think so. Israel's presence in the American psyche is so entrenched. The pro-Israel lobby has worked for decades to feed its rhetoric into the media and political spaces, making it difficult to tune out their noise.
In a plutocracy, the schism between ruler and ruled grows over time. So you're not going to see very dramatic shifts in public opinion translated into policy changes or significant change in media coverage as fast as we need it to happen. It took years for the media to begin changing its tune about the Vietnam War, and then it took even longer for the political class to turn. Now we're dealing with a much more restricted political system, and the stakes are astronomically high. So unfortunately, it's going to take time.
The very thing that Palestinians in Gaza haven't got. Time.
Wow.
Ever since the so-called Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, the GHF, took over aid distribution in the Strip, more than 800 Palestinians trying to get that aid have been killed. It turns out that many of the same operatives behind the GHF, which is a joint U.S.-Israeli venture, are now cooking up some new plans, the details of which are coming out via some key reporting. Meenakshi Ravi has been following this story.
The escalating criminality of the GHF has made it a compelling story for much of the media. Just last week, there have been new investigations uncovering details of how the GHF came about and its involvement in plans to ethnically cleanse Gaza. From the UK's Financial Times, two reports. The first was about work done by the Boston Consulting Group, one of the world's big three consulting firms, to help get GHF up and running, and then to produce financial models for the, quote, relocation of more than 500,000 Palestinians. The FT's second report focused on the participation of former British Prime Minister Tony Blair's think tank, the Tony Blair Institute, TBI, in planning for Gaza's, quote, post...
I got to pause it when I read the... Exactly. Most of MAGA didn't know Israel's reach and holds in our government. The support was on an idea. People are alarmed at the weight of Israel's influence. Yeah, that's wild. They say Israel number one. It's not really America first. It's Israel first and America second. That was a good piece of work right there. Very educational and informative. That was great.
Government of Israel. Defense Minister Israel Katz spoke in a closed-door press conference in which he laid out plans about what he called a humanitarian city built on the ruins of Rafah, bordering Egypt. Israeli channels reported the plans like this.
ייקחו ממך את הנשק, אם אתה איש חמאס תיעצר, בעצם אזור חופשי מחמאס לראשונה מאז עליית חמאס ב-2007.
והמטרה היא למעשה להפריד בין האוכלוסייה העזתית לבין מחבלי חמאס שנמצאים בתוך האוכלוסייה, לפחות בשלב הראשון.
What none of the channels mentioned, of course, was that with a perimeter sealed off by the Israeli military and an edict that those who come in cannot leave, Katz's plans essentially amount to a concentration camp for Palestinians in Gaza.
Thanks, Mina. For the past 8 months now, Georgia has been in a state of political upheaval. What began as a protest over a disputed election result turned into a mass uprising, which then escalated when the government, led by the right-wing Georgian Dream Party, put the country's application to join the European Union on hold. The authorities began rounding up citizens in mass arrests while cracking down on the media space, stifling dissent through legal
in Fall River last night. Our thoughts and prayers are with the families of the victims. I'm prepared to tell you that 9 people lost their lives in this building last night. We have 1 in critical condition, but we had over 30 transported. So we are waiting for another update, and you can see that it looks like there are some residential buildings as well in this area of Fall River, Massachusetts. A lot of older buildings in this area right here. There was a massive response, as you can imagine, with every firefighter on duty in the city attending, as well as 30 off-duty firefighters who were called in. And the fire chief crediting the first responders with saving the lives of many other residents over ladders. There were at least a dozen people rescued over ladders, and he really applauded the quick thinking and the brave action of these firefighters for saving lives. There were 5 firefighters that sustained mostly minor injuries during the operation. All of those firefighters, the 5 of them, are expected to be okay. But we are waiting yet another update on this. And Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey calling for the community of Fall River to come together, stating that her heart goes out to those who are waking up to this horrific news. A little bit about this building right here. As you can see, the helicopter, flying away from this scene. You can see a couple of baseball diamonds, but just giving you another perspective right here, as I did want to shift to a ground shot courtesy of WNAC right here, as we are expecting that update to get underway. But in the meantime, just into our newsroom, I did want to shift gears again, as we were promising you this. You're taking a look right now of media on the go. This is outside the Oval Office right here, and it does look like perhaps we will be hearing from President Trump soon. You can see right now that this photographer, at least, has been stationed outside the doors of the Oval Office. They're going to be opening up the doors right here, and we are expecting to see President Trump alongside NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte there as well. So we're anticipating this to get underway. What we're going to do is we're going to take an opportunity to step away for our final break as we're waiting for this camera to be let inside the Oval Office, and we're going to continue our live coverage in just a moment.
We're getting ready, guys. They're letting the media inside of the Oval Office right now as we speak. We're getting ready for, they say it's supposed to be some type of announcement. So we're going to see. I got to take a break too, guys. Give me 1 second. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Give me 1 second. I have to go do something real quick. So I got to take a little break. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Appreciate y'all for joining me. We're waiting on Trump to announce something about Russia. So just sit back, hold tight, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. I'll be right back.
We now have a new Commissioner of Education effective today, Stasi Kamoutsis, who's worked in our administration on all these issues, and is going to be very, very strong over there. So things are really looking good for that realm. We also have some of our representatives. I saw Buchanan and Robinson from the area. Then we also have our state senator, our warrior Green Beret from Tampa, Jay Collins, is here with us, and they've all been instrumental in supporting New College. Now, not everyone in the legislature was supportive of continuing New College's mission, but you had some folks there that I think really went astray, and people recognize that, and I think ultimately, we'll hold them accountable for what they're doing. But this is something that has been, I know, a labor of love for Richard, but it just shows that we want to get the most potential out of these institutions. And there's a debate about higher education where, there's some people that think higher education should just be whatever kind of the most liberal faculty want, and then that should just be it. I don't think that's what Florida taxpayers want out of their public institutions. And so we want to make sure that our universities, but particularly a place like New College, is really answering the call to provide a classical education that really has students think about big questions, where they learn how to think critically, where they learn how to make arguments, where they learn how to think about things and have their assumptions questioned in ways that in some of these universities that are promoting orthodoxy, you don't see anymore. And I know they've had great debates. When's your most recent debate you've had? Yeah, Dershowitz, yeah. And that's right. You guys put out a clip about that. That was the commencement speaker, and I think Alan Dershowitz said that America would be fine without Harvard or Yale at this juncture, but America really needs New College. And I think that was pretty. And this is a guy that's taught at Harvard Law School. This is a guy that taught at Harvard Law School for decades, and so when he's saying that, that's something that's really, really meaningful. So this mission's important, and I'm very happy to be back here for this. Now, that is actually not the purpose of today's announcement. The purpose of today's announcement, as you may gather from what the placard on this podium says, is we're celebrating yet another number one ranking for the state of Florida. And you've heard me talk about we've been ranked number one in higher education for X years in a row, a lot of years now. Number one in economy by U.S. News and World Report, 2 years in a row. Number one by CNBC. The talking points had 2 years in a row, but they just came out again, and CNBC for the third year in a row has rated Florida's economy number one amongst all 50 states. So that's great. Number one in education freedom by the Heritage Foundation. Number one in education freedom by the Alex Center for State Education Freedom. Number one for parent empowerment. Number one for new business formations. Number one for entrepreneurship. Fastest growing state in the nation based on the U.S. Census Bureau, including home to 4 of the top 10 fastest growing metro areas. From the last years they have records. Although I know there's a lot of people that are like, slow down, like we don't want all, and trust me, I'm not asking for people to come, because there's benefits to it, but there's also challenges, and we've got to do infrastructure and schools and all this other stuff. So that's kind of a natural, I think, progression. I do think that ebbs and flows. Number one state to retire by Wallet Hub. Number one state for talent attraction. Number one for EdChoice Friedman Index for having the most robust school choice options.
All right, so we are dipping into Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, but I did want to pivot here as we do see Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey alongside other officials as they are discussing the deadly assisted living facility fire.
Okay, obviously, we had a tremendous tragedy last night in the city of Fall River, and in my constant phone calls with the governor this morning, back and forth, she said, that's about it. I'm on my way down. I want to see this. I want people to know we support the residents of Fall River. And so obviously I want to turn it over to the governor right away. And I'll say it for the 15th time. The public safety people did a great job last night across every division. Fire, police, EMS, EMA, to make sure they kept the losses at a minimum, as tragic as they were, those numbers. But the governor, as I said, was here with us in spirit, and now she wants to be here in person. So I'll turn it over to my good friend, Governor Maura Healey.
Thanks, Mayor. Good morning. I just want to reiterate everything the mayor said about the incredible work of all of public safety in the Fall River community. The fire department, police department, EMS, EMA. There were a lot of volunteers who appeared on scene. And were it not for the heroic work, brave work of these men and women who showed last night, particularly our fire and police and EMS, we would have seen much greater loss of life. As you can see, this is a fairly massive structure, massive facility. It housed nearly 70 people. Thank God the vast majority of them were able to be taken out. Most of them were people who needed help, as you see from some of the footage and what I've seen. These are people who were not able to move themselves. They were not mobile themselves, and therefore the work that the fire, police, and EMS did to get people out was truly amazing. I'm also grateful that the 5 firefighters who were treated at the hospital have been released. I'm glad for their safety. I just want to say to the families and friends of those who perished, I offer my condolences, deepest condolences and sympathy on behalf of the Commonwealth for this tragic loss. We lost 9 folks last night in this terrible tragedy, and our hearts and our sympathies are with their families. I have pledged to the mayor and to the people of Fall River that my administration will do everything we can to offer support and assistance in this time. I know the teams here in the mayor's office and his folks have done a tremendous job getting people to their place of shelter down at the center. We'll probably go down there next, and very much in the process of now looking to rehouse this vulnerable population. But we'll continue to keep you updated. As we know, this matter is under investigation by the state DFS, and we'll provide updates as we receive them. But again, my heartfelt thanks and gratitude, deepest gratitude to police, to fire, to EMS, and to all the first responders who showed up last night and worked through the night to save so many lives. We are so grateful to all of them. And again, our deepest sympathies to family and friends of those who perished in this terrible, tragic fire. Thank you.
So we really don't have any updates from the last time we spoke. I just was fortunate to meet Governor Healey and speak with her, and I look forward to forming a relationship in the coming months to make sure that the firefighters, like I spoke before, firefighters and other public safety, EMS and police, have the resources they need to cope with this tragedy and continue their careers and be able to retire happy, healthy lives. So she's made a commitment to help out with anything that the state can provide for us, and we look forward to working with her on that. I really don't, I'm more than welcome if there are any questions that I could answer, but I don't think I'm going to be able to provide much more than we did this morning.
Any sense of any sense of the source of the fires? Or?
It's all still under investigation. Like I said earlier, this is a very extensive investigation. It's going to take a lot of time, and we need to get the facts right before we release them. So we ask for your patience with that.
Where it might have come from, maybe where it might have started?
Again, same, under investigation, and we really need to make sure that we get that right before we release it. What time? Shortly after 9:30 last night.
Well, you know, the relationship between our administration and the city of Fall River is tight. We've worked together on a lot of things. We've worked together in good times on a lot of matters of economic development under Mayor Coogan's great leadership. And what I pledge is that we'll do whatever we can. I've been in touch with our Secretariats of Health and Human Services and of Public Safety. Right now, the first order of business is to make sure we're assisting the city in any way possible in rehousing what is a vulnerable population. The city's done a great job of getting folks immediately last night to the center for shelter, where they've already had food, had their medication. That's a work in progress. However, we can be helpful. The majority, if not all of these folks, are mass health recipients, and so working with our agencies and all to see what we can do is what we're looking at right now. And of course, DFS, the Fire Marshal's office, is involved separately in looking at and reviewing the cause and the extent of this fire.
When you think about just what areas you'll be looking at in terms of the condition of the facility, any kind of outstanding problems it has, can you speak about what areas you're going to be looking at in terms of the condition of the facility, whether it was up to code, whether things were working or not working? I know it's too early to say exactly, but what areas are you going to be focusing on?
Well, it's very early in the review process, and I'll leave you to speak directly with the fire marshal about the scope of his investigation, but needless to say, it's something that we'll look at all of that. But again, it's much too early to offer any answers at this time, but DFS will be sure to keep everyone apprised.
What is it like actually looking at the data and seeing all of this in person?
I appreciate, the mayor and I were talking early this morning, and I'd obviously seen some of the pictures from the media and the videos, but to see it up close, you can smell it right now still, and this is hours after our tremendous teams put the fire out. It's horrifying to think about what happened in the middle of the night in the dark. People just scrambling as best they could to get out through windows, the firefighters coming up ladders, hauling people down in any way possible to get them out of the building. The panic, it's so heartbreaking and so sad, and something you never want to see. And all I can say is that I'm heartbroken for the individuals who perished in this, and I'm heartbroken for their families and for their friends and loved ones. I'm grateful that we have, this is government though at work. The men and women who show up and answer the call, in the middle of the night to put out a fire and to rescue people and to save lives. Just really, really struck by those acts of public service, and just so grateful that the teams were able to act so quickly, so swiftly. And were it not for that, we would have seen an unimaginable loss of life here, given the vulnerability of this population. And I think that's what strikes me. That's what folks need to understand. This was not a situation where teams arrived and people were able to get out easily. All of these people needed assistance. As you saw, many were in wheelchairs, many were immobile, many had oxygen tanks. They were severely compromised individuals in this assisted living facility, which made it all the more challenging. And you can imagine a fire raging. You're dealing with a smoke inhalation, which we know was devastating. 5 of our guys had to be treated at the hospital. But just how precarious this was, with oxygen tanks, so many of them on, and the presence of fire. It's unbelievable that that there wasn't an even greater loss of life. And I just think it speaks to, the training and the preparedness of the first responders, the fact that so many people were able to get shelter, nourishment, blankets, medication. That's tremendous coordination by the mayor, Mayor Coogan, and his leadership and his teams, and that very much continues as we speak.
Governor Healy, is the state aware of any previous safety complaints by this assisted living facility?
Not at this time, but again, we haven't had a full opportunity to look into everything.
Chief, any firm numbers about how many people remain in the hospital at this time?
I don't have that number right now.
So this is the question and answer portion of the update on the deadly assisted living facility fire. But I did want to pivot, as it does look like press now being allowed inside the Oval Office right here with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, and you can see President Trump. Let's listen in.
All right, guys, here we go. Appreciate y'all for sticking around. Let's see what this is going to be.
Okay, thank you very much. It's a honor, great honor, to have a friend of mine who's become very friendly over the last number of years. We knew each other before, but Mark is the head of NATO, Mark Rutte, Secretary General of NATO. Highly respected by everybody that knows him, but in particular the European countries. They have great reliance on him, and he's done a fantastic job. And we had a tremendous meeting, I guess it's about a month ago, and I think Mark will tell you that it was really perhaps more important the date of November 5th. That was the election day. Maybe that was the most important, because we've made tremendous progress together. And one of the reasons that you're here today is to hear that we are very unhappy, I am, with Russia. But we'll discuss that maybe a different day. But we're very, very unhappy with them, and we're going to be doing very severe tariffs if we don't have a deal in 50 days. Tariffs at about 100%. You'd call them secondary tariffs. You know what that means. But today we're going to talk about something else. And as you know, we've spent $350 billion approximately on this war with Russia and Ukraine, and would like to see it end. It wasn't my war, it was Biden's war. It's not my war. I'm trying to get you out of it. And we want to see it end. And I'm disappointed in President Putin, because I thought we would have had a deal 2 months ago, but it doesn't seem to get there. So based on that, we're going to be doing secondary tariffs if we don't have a deal in 50 days. It's very simple. And they'll be at 100%. And that's the way it is. That can be more simple. It's just the way it is. I hope we don't have to do it. But regardless, we are going to be, we make the greatest military equipment in the world, whether it's missiles. You saw that recently in Iran, the way those planes flew in. They had every single, 14 bombs hit every target. Then you had the helicopters shoot a total of 30 bombs, 30 missiles, and they hit every single, Marco, is that right? Every single piece, every single target. And it was, I guess, on a scale of 0 to 10, they say it was about a 15. That's how successful it was. That's how lethal it was, a word they like to use nowadays. But it was an amazing, well-organized attack that people in this country wanted to do for 24 years. You know, when we had the pilots in last week, they were saying, sir, we've been practicing this for 24 years, meaning people, not them, but other people that are a little older now. But they too, and you were the one that let us do it. But we've been practicing it 3 to 4 times a year for 22, 24 years, because they always knew they had to stop Iran from doing what they were doing, which is trying to come up with a nuclear weapon, a nuclear bomb. And we did it very successfully. And we make the best equipment, the best missiles, the best of everything. The European nations know that. And we've made a deal today, and I'm going to have Mark speak about it, but we've made a deal today where we are going to be sending them weapons, and they're going to be paying for them. The United States will not be having any payment made. We're not buying it, but we will manufacture it, and they're going to be paying for it. Our last meeting of a month ago was very successful in that they agreed to 5%, which is more than $1 trillion a year, so they have a lot of money. And these are wealthy nations. They have a lot of money, and they want to do it. They feel very strongly about it, and we feel strongly about it, too. But we're in for a lot of money, and we don't want to do anymore. And we can't. But we make the best, and we're going to be sending the best to NATO, and in some cases to maybe, at Mark's suggestion, if we go to Germany, where they're going to send early on missiles. and they'll be replaced, and NATO is going to take care of it. It's going to be coordinated by NATO, and they're going to work very much with Matt Whitaker, who's right here, who's a great ambassador, and Matt's going to be coordinating. You better do a good job, Matt.
I will.
But Matt's going to coordinate. He's a very talented guy. He's going to coordinate everything. So in a nutshell, we're going to make top-of-the-line weapons, and they'll be sent to NATO. NATO may choose to have certain of them sent to other countries where we can get a little additional speed, where the country will release something and it'll be mostly in the form of a replacement. And I'd like to have Mark, and again, just a highly respected, pretty young guy, for having had the career that he's had, because he had an amazing career before going to NATO. So, and we spent a lot of time together over the last couple of months. And if you could say a few words.
Absolutely. No, Mr. President, dear Donald, this is really big. This is really big. You called me on Thursday that you had taken a decision. And the decision is that you want Ukraine what it needs to have to maintain, to be able to defend itself against Russia, but you do want the Europeans to pay for it, which is totally logical. And this is building on the tremendous success of the NATO summit. The 5%, but also the decision to keep Ukraine strong and the decision to increase our defense industrial production. So based on that, that was Europe stepping up. This is again Europeans stepping up. So I've been in contact with many countries. I can tell you that at this moment, Germany massively, but also Finland and Denmark and Sweden and Norway, the United Kingdom, the Netherlands, Canada. They all want to be part of this, and this is only the first wave. There will be more. So what we'll do is work through the NATO systems to make sure that we know what Ukrainians need, so that we can make packages. Of course, in a way, we discussed it this morning with Pete Hegseth at the Pentagon, in a way that, of course, the US will keep on its stockpiles necessary to defend this country. That's absolutely clear. But it will mean that Ukraine can get its hands on really massive numbers of military equipment, both for air defense, but also missiles, ammunition, etc., etc. So if I was Vladimir Putin today and hear you speaking about what you are planning to do in 50 days and this announcement, I would reconsider whether I should not take negotiations about Ukraine more seriously than I was doing at the moment, if I was Vladimir Putin. But when I'm Ukraine, I think this is really great news for that. So I really want to thank you for that. And it means the Europeans paying for it. And again, I mentioned all these countries, we will deal with that. And exactly as you said, that might also mean that countries will move equipment fast into Ukraine, and then the US later backfilling it, because speed is of the essence here. So really, thank you. This is important.
You did a great job. That's a really great job. We've been very successful in settling wars. You have India, Pakistan. You have Rwanda and the Congo. That was going on for 30 years. India, by the way, and Pakistan would have been a nuclear war within another week, the way that was going. That was going very badly. And we did that through trade. I said, we're not going to talk to you about trade unless you get this thing settled. And they did. And they were both great leaders. And they were great. But Rwanda and the Congo, that was going on for 30 years. And at least 7 million people killed, and killed with a lot of pretty rough weapons like machetes, heads chopped off, going on for many years. You couldn't even get near the countries. Nobody wanted to get near it, so frightening. And we got that one solved. Serbia, Kosovo, got that solved. That was going to be one that was going to happen. And again, that was something I used. I use trade for a lot of things, but it's great for settling wars. That was really very important. We're working, Marco's working very hard with everybody here on the Strip, the Gaza Strip. I call it the Gaza Strip, one of the worst real estate deals ever made. They gave up the oceanfront property, one of the worst deals ever made. But it was supposed to bring peace, and it didn't bring peace. It brought the opposite. But we're doing pretty well on Gaza. Steve Witkoff is here, and I think we could have something fairly soon to talk about. And we solved another one, that we just seem to have, Armenia and Azerbaijan. It looks like that's going to come to a conclusion, successful conclusion. We worked on Egypt with a next-door neighbor who is a good neighbor. They're friends of mine, but they happened to build a dam which closed up water going into a thing called the Nile. I think if I'm Egypt, I want to have water in the Nile, and we're working on that one. It's a problem, but it's going to get solved. They built one of the biggest dams in the world, a little bit outside of Egypt. You know about that. You've been hearing about that one. And that turned out to be a big problem. I don't know. I think the United States funded the dam. I don't know why they didn't solve the problem before they built the dam. You know, they're gonna have a war here. I was outside, the election was rigged, and I was outside looking in, and I said, you know, that thing's gonna be a war. Couldn't believe it, because what Biden said was the exact opposite of what should have been said. And it started, and it's a real mess. We're losing, I guess they're losing 5,000 or 6,000 people a day. It's actually now more. I was saying 5,000 a day. It's actually more now. Mostly soldiers, but a lot of people in cities and towns that are getting blown up too. It's a horrible war, and it should be stopped. And so if it's not done, if we don't have an agreement in 50 days, that's what we're doing, secondary tariffs. And they're biting. And I hope we don't get to the point where we do, but I've been hearing so much talk. It's all talk. It's all talk, and then missiles go into Kiev and kill 60 people. It's got to stop. That's got to stop. But the purpose of this is to say that this is a very big deal we've made. This is billions of dollars worth of military equipment is going to be purchased from the United States, going to NATO, etc. And that's going to be quickly distributed to the battlefield. Ukraine will take it up. And, you know, say what you want about Ukraine. When the war started, they had no chance. And they still would have had no chance if the equipment, they had the best equipment, because we do make the best planes and missiles, and we make the best military equipment in the world by far. You know, we have new things coming out that are beyond belief, and I'm very excited about the Golden Dome. It's going to give us very strong protection. We've already started that. But they had courage, because somebody has to use that equipment. And they fought with tremendous courage, and they continue to fight with tremendous courage. But they don't have, they're losing on equipment.
So he says Russia has 50 days to make the deal. And if they don't make a deal in 50 days, 100% tariffs, and they will be selling Ukraine military weapons. That's what he's saying, that they will be selling the weapons to Ukraine.
That's going to be the next problem, because, but that's going to take a long time. Cities, many of the cities are knocked down to the ground. Many of the people have left, but many have stayed. I don't know if they actually stay. And most have stayed. Actually, it's incredible that they stay, and knowing that a missile could be hitting your apartment house, and your apartment house that you're sitting in could collapse on top of you. And they do very heavy construction. They don't use rebar. They do very thick concrete construction. Those are heavy buildings, big buildings and heavy buildings, and they collapse like they're made out of paper. It's unbelievable to see this happening with people, so many people being killed. So we think we're going to make progress, and we hope we're going to make progress. In the meantime, we're going to get you good service on what you need. And we really became friendly with NATO this last meeting. You know, we went from 2% to 5%, which everyone said was not even a possibility. They weren't paying 2%. Many of them were paying much less than 2%.
But even those, since you became president, all committed to the 2% before the summit. And now collectively we committed to the 5%.
That's right, they did. They've been very good. And I think I made a lot of friends over there. We had a couple of days of very intensive talks. And they're great people. They're leaders of countries. Leaders of countries. Many of them great countries, some of them smaller countries, but for the most part, I'd say very solid, strong countries, and very successful. Some of them are among the most successful countries in the world. So that's the story. We hope that's going to have an impact on Vladimir Putin, and we hope it's going to have an impact on Ukraine also. We want to make sure that Ukraine does what they have to do. All of a sudden they may feel emboldened, or maybe they don't want. You know, this is a very difficult situation.
Ukraine wants a peace deal.
I think so.
And they will stay committed to that, there's no doubt. They want it. But the Russians have to become...
They have to continue to want it, though.
Yeah, I agree. But you and I will make sure of that.
All of a sudden they get no...
You and I will make sure of that.
We'll make sure. I feel confident that they will do what has to be done. Plus, we have certain parameters that both sides know. And we already know what should be done. So I think that's going to be it's going to be very strong. We want everlasting peace. Any questions, France? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President. What was the tipping point for you in making this decision? Was it a conversation with President Putin? Was it a piece of intelligence? And why are you giving 50 more days?
I think I think it's a very short period of time. I think, don't forget, I've just really been involved in this for not very long. And it wasn't initial focus. This is a Biden war. This is a Democrat war, not a Republican or Trump war. This is a war that would have never happened. It shouldn't have happened. A lot of people being killed. When the final numbers come in, you're going to see a lot more people are being killed in this war than you think, than you've been writing about. It's a very deadly war. They're all bad, but this is a very deadly war. The numbers are going to be far greater. When an apartment house comes down, and they say 2 people were slightly injured. No, many people were killed. And those numbers will be at some point accurately reported. So far, they're not. It's a deadly war. I think that you're just going to see, I think you're going to see strong movement. I hope so. I hope so.
And what about
the secondary tariffs are very, very powerful.
What about the tariffs that the Republicans in the House and the Senate have ready? Those are 500%. Sure. Why are you doing 100%?
Well, the Republicans are moving very strongly in the Senate, giving us total control of it, but I'm not sure we need it, but it's certainly good that they're doing it. And Lindsey Graham's working hard, the whole John Thune, all of them, they're all working hard. And they're in coordination with Mike Johnson, Speaker in the House. And I think they've actually crafted a pretty good piece of legislation. It's probably going to pass very easily. And that includes Democrats. And there's some little tweaks, but I don't want to say I don't need it because I don't want them to waste their time. It could be very useful. We'll have to see. But we can do secondary. We're probably talking about 100% or something like that.
So can you clarify?
We can do secondary tariffs without the Senate, without the House. But what they're crafting also could be very good.
So are you suggesting then that the Congress should move forward with those sanctions, the 500%, and that your 100 would be a separate additional package?
Yeah, I mean, the 500 is, sort of meaningless after a while because at a certain point it doesn't matter. It's not going to be, it's 100. 100 is going to serve the same function. But, yeah, I have it at 100%. They may have it, I don't know what they're going to end up with. They may have it at 100 too. They may have it at 500. But they're doing some good work in the House, and I think in the House and the Senate. And as you know, they're coordinated, and they can have it done quickly. They said they'll have it as quickly as I need it. So we'll see. We're talking to them. In fact, John Thune's coming over later on to talk.
Did you call for it yet?
Yeah, he's gonna come over.
Thank you, Mr. President. Is it your view that Vladimir Putin mischaracterized his dedication to? Is it your view that Vladimir Putin did not clarify his intention to a peace deal? And what happens now in the next phase? Is there?
We're going to see. I mean, we're going to go for a period of time, maybe start negotiating. I think I felt, I don't know about you, Mark, but I felt that we had a deal about 4 times. Mm-hmm. And here we are, still talking about
And he didn't send serious people to the negotiations. So I remember that you were able, with Marco Rubio and with Steve Witkoff, to get these talks going in Istanbul.
Yep.
I remember I was myself in Turkey for NATO business in May, and we really put pressure on the Ukrainians to send a senior team to Istanbul, and they did. But then the Russians came up with this historian explaining history of Russia since 1250.
We thought, and I thought, we should have had a deal done a long time ago. But it just keeps going on and on and on. And every night people are dying. A lot of people, a lot of Russian soldiers are dying, by the way. And a lot of Ukrainian soldiers too. But a lot of Russian soldiers are dying.
100,000 Russian soldiers since 1st of January. Since January. 100,000 Russian soldiers dead since January. So if anybody in Moscow is listening to this, again, 100,000 dead Russians since January. This is what President Putin is doing at the moment.
Yeah, please.
Will these be Patriot missiles specifically, or Patriot batteries that you're planning? And when do you
everything? It's Patriots. It's all of them. It's a full complement with the batteries.
And when do you expect them to arrive in Ukraine, sir?
Well, we're going to have some come very soon, within days, actually. Because a couple of the countries that have Patriots are going to swap over, and will replace the Patriots with the ones they have, and Matt will coordinate with NATO. But so it's going to be, they're going to start arriving very soon.
And this afternoon, Boris Pistorius, the German defense minister, is visiting Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, and we'll discuss also, I think, on this whole Patriot thing. Norway is involved, so that's on the Patriots, but this whole deal is also about missiles or ammunition, so it's broader than Patriots.
We have one country that has 17 Patriots getting ready to be shipped. They're not going to need them for them. So we're going to work a deal where the 17 will go, or a big portion of the 17 will go to the war side.
Mr. President,
that can be done very quickly.
Mr. President,
yeah, please.
Could this transaction with NATO be viewed as a step towards achieving peace, letting Putin know that now Zelensky has a little bit more powerful tools in his tool chest, and maybe that brings him to the table to achieve peace? Because I know that you wanted to do that.
Brian, that's what we've been saying. I think you might have expressed it better if you wanted to.
I'm just trying to
exactly what
give us a summary.
That was a nice summary. I think he's done better than us. He's a very good guy, I can tell you that. But no, it's well said. Yeah, I think this is a chance at getting peace. Or it's just going to be the same thing. I have to tell you, Europe has a lot of spirit for this war. A lot of people, when I first got involved, I really didn't think they did, but they do. And I saw that a month ago, and you were there, most of you, many of you were there. The level of esprit de corps, spirit that they have is amazing. They really think it's a very, very important thing to do, or they wouldn't be doing it. Look, they're agreeing to, they're paying for everything. We're not paying anymore. We have an ocean separating us. I said, we have a problem. We make the best stuff, but we can't keep doing this. And Biden should have done this years ago. He should have done it from the beginning, but he didn't. He didn't know he was there. This guy, what a horrible job they did for this country. And I just hope between the border and this and so many other inflation, what a horrible administration. The worst administration in history, in my opinion. It's not my opinion. I think it's everybody's opinion. But this is something that shouldn't have happened, and we're going to see if we can end it. I do want to make one statement. Again, I said it before. This is not Trump's war. We're here to try and get it finished and settled and whatever. Because nobody wins with this. And this is a loser from every standpoint.
From day
this
one.
was Biden, and this was other people. And it's a very sad. It's a very sad situation. This gentleman's doing a great job. I think he's going to get it, and Matt and everybody else that's working on it. I think he'll get this thing over with, hopefully.
Mr. President, you've praised European countries today as standing up for Ukraine, as being strong. Will you allow them to continue to negotiate tariffs lower than 30% before August 1st, or is the deal set at this point?
What does that mean? You mean you're talking about the tariffs?
On trade, on tariffs.
You're back on tariffs. You're on a more friendly tariff, right? A little bit more friendly tariff. No, we're going to be talking to people. We have, I watched the show this morning. They were talking about, well, when's he going to make the deal? The deals are already made. The letters are the deals. The deals are made. There are no deals to make. They would like to do a different kind of a deal, and we're always open to talk. We are open to talk, including to Europe. In fact, they're coming over. They'd like to talk to us.
Mr. President, is there any concern about the U.S. stockpiles? There was a pause in delivery of weaponry to Ukraine in order to evaluate, apparently, the U.S. stockpiles. What came out of that?
Evaluation. I mean, this was a very big, what we're talking about today is a very, very big day. And what Pete was doing, and me too, I knew what Pete was doing, was evaluation, because we knew this was going to happen. And now we actually announced it. They voted on it. It's all been done. So obviously that has a big impact on, you know, when you say pause, obviously you're not going to be doing things if you don't know what's going to happen here. But we were pretty sure this was going to happen, so we did a little bit of a pause. But this is a very big event today. This is something very...
If Putin escalates further, how far are you willing to go in response?
In what?
How far are you willing to go if Putin were to escalate, send more bombs in the coming days?
Don't ask me a question like that. How far? I want to get the war settled. They're not Americans that are dying in it, and you know, I have a problem, and JD has a problem. It's a stance that he's had for a long time. They're not Americans dying, but there are a lot of people dying, and on something that should be able to be settled. And we all agree with that. This group of people, you know, we want to defend our country, but you know, ultimately, having a strong Europe is a very good thing. It's a very good thing. So I'm okay with that. Yeah, please, in the back.
Yeah, is there a ceiling on what the Europeans are willing to pay for? And it sounds like, are you ruling out the U.S. paying for some from additional weapons through drawdown authority?
Shall I try to answer that? Because basically what the president is saying, that he is willing, of course, taking consideration what the U.S. needs itself. So it's not that you can have a shopping list and you can order whatever you want, because the U.S. has to make sure that the U.S. keeps its hands on what the U.S. needs, also to keep the whole world safe, because in the end you are the police agent of the whole world. You're the most powerful nation on earth, the most powerful military on earth. But given that, the US has decided to indeed massively supply Ukraine with what is necessary through NATO. Europeans 100% paying for that. And what we have been doing over the last couple of days is talking with countries, and I just mentioned the ones who in the first wave immediately said, we want to chip in. And then you're really talking about big numbers. Take Germany visiting today, they're really talking about big numbers.
Can we get some clarity?
I will say that I spoke with Germany, spoke with most of the larger countries, and they are really enthusiastic about this. They want to, and you know, they're willing to go very far. I will tell you, you know, as per your question, how far would I go? They want to go very far. They don't want this to happen. That's why I think from Putin's standpoint, it would really be good. He gets the country's economy is doing very poorly, and he's got to get his economy back. He's got to save his economy. He could save his country in a sense, but the economy can destroyed a lot of countries over the years. He wants to get that economy back. And you know, he's got a great country for trading and other things. If they could use the assets instead of war, he's got some tremendous potential. That's what I would say.
How did you deliver this news to Putin, sir? How did you tell Putin this was coming?
I speak to him a lot about getting this thing done. And I always hang up and say, well, that was a nice phone call. And then missiles are launched into Kiev or some other city. And I said, it's strange. And after that happens 3 or 4 times, you say, the talk doesn't mean anything. My conversations with him are always very pleasant. They say, isn't that a very lovely conversation? And then the missiles go off that night. I go home, I tell the First Lady, you know, I spoke to Vladimir today. We had a wonderful conversation. She said, oh, really? Another city was just hit. So it's like, look, he's, I don't want to say he's an assassin, but he's a tough guy. It's been proven over the years. He's fooled a lot of people. He fooled Bush. He fooled a lot of people. He fooled Clinton, Bush, Obama, Biden. He didn't fool me. But what I do say is that at a certain point, you know, ultimately talk doesn't talk. It's got to be action. It's got to be results. And I hope he does it. It's potentially such a great country to be wasting so many people on this and the money. And look at what's happened to his economy. Look at what's happened. So,
and with the threat in 50 days,
yeah,
we will be hit very hard.
I mean, look, I hope he's going to do it. He knows the deal. He knows what a fair deal is. If there is such a thing as a fair deal, there's no winners here. This is a loser. This is a loser. And I dealt with him from the beginning. And it wouldn't have happened, but I will say Ukraine was the apple of his eye. We talk about it. It was the apple of his eye, but it wasn't going to happen. And he understood that. It wasn't going to happen. And then I noticed, after I was out, I noticed soldiers forming at the border.
Yeah.
And then I heard horrible, stupid things being said from the other side. And I said, they're really handling it very, very wrong. It's a shame. Yeah.
Can I add one thing, and that is about President Trump, because you came in office in January. On the 12th of February, you had your first phone call with Putin. I think you did exactly what I hoped you would do. That is breaking the deadlock, starting the conversation, because you have to test him. I know Putin very well from the days when I was Prime Minister in the Netherlands. You have to test him. And you did this, and you really gave him a chance to be serious, to get to the table, to start negotiations. Steve Witkoff, Marco Rubio, we all tried to help you. But you've now come to a point where you say, well, hey...
We actually thought we had probably 4 times the deal.
Yeah.
I mean, you would have called and you said, this looks good.
Yeah.
And then the deal wouldn't happen because bombs would be thrown out that night and you'd say, we're not making any deals. It was like...
But you breaking the deadlock was crucial because you had to start that process, and you were the only one who was able to do that.
I think we'll get it done.
Do you think he's reasonable enough to negotiate an end to
I think
this?
we're going to get it done. I think, look, this is a very powerful situation. You have very wealthy countries buying the best equipment in the world. And we have the best equipment in the world. We make equipment like no other. You know, our submarines, nuclear submarines, are so powerful. They're the most powerful weapon ever built. And we have the best in the world they're 20 years behind, 25 years behind us. We have the greatest equipment anywhere in the world. I just hope we don't have to use it. Yeah, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. On a separate topic here, President Biden, of all people, spoke to the New York Times over the weekend. He did not speak to them on the record during his time in office at all, but he spoke to them recently. And he defended his use of the auto pen and said that he signed off on every decision. But at the same time, the Times reports that he did not individually approve each name for the categorical pardons that applied to large numbers of people. What are your take on that? Any new revelations from that?
Well, I mean, you're talking about the auto pen. Look, the auto pen, I think, is maybe one of the biggest scandals that we've had in 50 to 100 years. This is a tremendous scandal. And I know the people on the other side of the, see that desk, that Resolute desk? Unfortunately, he used it before me. But, you know, we have our choice of 7 desks. They're all beautiful, but I chose the Resolute, and so did he, unfortunately. But the people on the other side of the Resolute desk, I know them. Lisa, the whole group, and they're no good. They're sick people. And I guarantee he knew nothing about what he was signing. I guarantee it. So they're going to figure it out, and we'll see what happens. But to me, the auto pen, you know, you elected president. You know what the auto pen is supposed to do? Sign thousands of letters from young people that write. We get thousands of letters a week, Susie, right? Thousands. I mean, tens of thousands sometimes. I look at a room, there's a room where we have many, many people working, responding and sending letters back. That's what an auto pen's supposed to be. To write to a young 7-year-old boy that writes to the president and he wants to be president someday and he loves America. That's what the auto pen's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be for signing major legislation and all the things. No, the auto pen, and I doubt he knew. I doubt they even spoke to him about it. I think they had, it's called a freewheeling auto pen. Like, Biden was never for open borders. Biden was never for transgender for everyone. So I don't think I think the radical left people that took over the White House, and if I didn't win, our country was finished.
He cannot stop talking about Biden, bro. I can't stand this. He cannot stop talking about Biden. He cannot stop talking about the election. Bro, this ain't looking too good, guys. Putin, don't take him serious. He just got through saying, we got the best military in the world. I hope we don't have to use it.
You'll back me up on this. But they say now it's the hottest country anywhere in the world. It is. Look at our numbers. Look at the numbers we made. You see, we made $25 billion last month. We didn't make that for years. The tariffs are kicking in. The economy is very strong, even though we have a Fed person who's terrible. He doesn't know what the hell he's doing, but that's all right. We blow through interest rates. We're doing so well, we blow through it. Be nice because people would be able to buy housing a lot easier. But think of it. We thought your country was dead. And they were dealing with China because they were really going to China, but not anymore. But we thought your country was dead, and now you have the hottest country anywhere in the world. So we've done a really good job, and it's an honor to have this man. This man is a star, and he's going to be dealing with another one of my stars, Matt, and you're going to do a great job, Matt Whitaker. Okay? Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.
I can't believe I'm about to say this, guys. I'm glad this is over with, bro. I'm glad this is over with. Yeah, I am. He can't stop talking about Biden. He can't stop talking about the election. Putin, don't take him serious at all. Bad situation, bad situation, bad situation. So with that being said, guys, I gotta go, man. I love and I appreciate everybody that came, kicked it with me. I don't know what's gonna happen out of this. All I know is I'm glad this is over with. Gotta pray for the president, gotta pray for America, gotta pray for the world, guys. We don't know what's about to happen next, but we do know Russia and those guys overseas are laughing right now as we speak. They don't want to release the Epstein files or none of that. We got to get to the bottom of the Epstein list. In my opinion, man, it's starting to go downhill for Trump, guys. He can't stop talking about Biden. He can't stop talking about the election. He can't stop talking about the past. When it's a lot of things right now that's going on, bro. Right in front of our face. It's bad, man. But I will be praying for him, man. I hope they can get it together. He only 50 days, bro. What is 50 days? Russia don't care about no 50 days. Russia don't care about no tariffs. Putin don't care about none of that. So with that being said, I hope y'all have a great day, man. I'm pissed. I love and I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for joining me. Hit the subscribe button as you leave. Y'all have a great day. If he releases the Epstein file, he's probably on the list, guys. So that being said, I love and I appreciate y'all. I'm out. Robert, he won't. If he stands up against Putin, like he said that we have the best military in the world. I hope we don't have to use it. And I'm gonna end it with that. He said we got the best military in the world. I just hope we don't have to use it. So with that being said, guys, y'all have a nice day. I love and I appreciate y'all. I'm out. Pray for Donald Trump. Pray for the world.